connecting. It looks fine. Hello, my friendships. Hi. Happy Wednesday. Welcome to another new and live episode of The Salt Circle. I apologize that we're getting started a little later than normally anticipated. I was just experiencing some technical fuckery, but we have since solved it and just, we're here. And that's all that matters. And you're here. And I appreciate that. So, let's get into it, right? So, welcome, like I said, to the Salt Circle. Every Wednesday, because we go live twice a week, Monday and Wednesday, every Wednesday, we, what do we do? What do we do? We manage, right? No, I'm kidding. Every Wednesday, we gather here, or I would like to think, right? We come together to navigate the comprehensive muchness of death and dying, which is, a journey that is going to touch all of us, potentially more than once, right? Whether as caregivers, firsthand taking care of the person who's, sick and dying, observers, we just see it. We know someone's sick. We see the progression. We're seeing other people kind of go through, the brunt of actually being affected, but we're still affected, right? Attendees, people who are in the periphery of the caregiver, people who are, witnessing or being a part of this person's, journey into the next stage of life. That doesn't sound right. To not life, whatever the fuck happens, right? Or the individuals who are facing mortality themselves. I mean, there's a lot of ways in which death, dying, and bereavement can affect us. I mean, it doesn't necessarily have to be a human death. It can be, a pet loss. Your childhood fucking dog died, or the animal that you've had for 30 something years, maybe a bird, maybe a turtle, I don't know, finally, dies, and that counts, or, grief and mourning, understanding loss and transition and the change that comes with that and all the complexities can also occur when someone doesn't die. What if you had a very, very close friend or a sibling and they turned into this terrible, horrible drug addict who is nothing like the person you knew? And you have no relationship, you have no contact, that person basically and functionally, relationship to you wise, is like they're dead, right? You can mourn that relationship, you can mourn the person that you knew or thought you knew, right? Even for non-living situations or things, I had and am still mourning the loss of my grandparents' home. And while it sounds really materialistic and like shallow to care about something like that, it's mourning the possibilities of what could have been used for that home, keeping it in the family, whatever the fuck that is. Business, oh, my grandfather loved me, anything. It could have meant so many things, and you're mourning those ruminations or the possibility of those things occurring, So it could be anything. I mean, we see fucking football teams and baseball teams sometimes. People literally go out into the streets and cry and sob and they can't go to work. They're in mourning for these expectations, and that's also valid. So this is kind of, a place where I really wanted to make it a safe, judgment-free zone. We can talk about all of the dimensions of death and the grieving process from, the psychological and social lenses to, what it means for a culture. What does a culture do with those themes? What about, certain philosophical perspectives? I am also pagan, so that means I am polytheistic. I see everything through the eyes and lens of someone who is polytheistic or pagan. So, these discussions might have some of that sprinkled in. I do like to do rituals. I do like to, really try to manifest certain energies and all that kind of mumbo jumbo, but you'll see. You'll see. It's all about, really taking in this profound human experience, and all the ways we deal with it for the most part are valid, right? So we're going to dive into that. And like I said, this is a safe place, so feel free to comment, or you can message me privately or anonymously, and you can share your story, or you can share what you want to talk about, what you want to hear me talk about. If you have specific questions, that I don't cover or you want me to expand on, please let us know. We definitely want to be here as a resource and as a source of, camaraderie while you are experiencing death, dying, or bereavement, right? And that's just because I think that participating with support, participating with other humans or other things that are capable of giving a fuck, it's a great source of comfort, right? It's also validation, and it strengthens you, it galvanizes you, and traditionally a salt circle is seen as something that protects what is inside the circle. But also, a salt circle is used to amplify the power of what or whom is inside it. So that's what we're kind of here for. We're going to amplify and galvanize and prepare ourselves and understand, all these things that we might have some fear or shame or judgment or confusion with. So please feel free to message me or comment, or, the Salt Circle has a TikTok, an Instagram, a Discord. So whatever your flavor is, definitely reach out to me, because I would love to hear your 2 cents. I think we all have really valid positionalities, even if we haven't really gone through it specifically ourselves. What do you think about it? Have you thought about it? We'll get into it, right? So, and that's really what I want us to be able to expect in these kind of discussions, or, weekly meetings every Wednesday at 8 p.m. But the time might change. So definitely, check into the Discord or into the other forms of social media, or even this one, for a calendar of events that I'm going to try to create and then keep up to date. We will see, but you are, my motivation. So definitely let me know. But anyway, what to expect? So obviously, discussion. We're going to be able to express our emotions without judgment. I don't care if you're mourning a snow globe that you accidentally dropped at school. Lay it out, get it out. I get it. That's valid. That's a valid way to feel. We here in the Salt Circle, participants, listeners, whatever, we can explore our fears and our hopes and our concerns related to our own or to a loved one's dying process. We're going to allow for a greater emotional preparation and acceptance. We're also going to allow ourselves to have a voice in what we want to happen to us, even if we haven't created the legal documentation yet, but at least we will know that we can create legal documentation. You see what I'm saying? So, I also think that hearing from other people who have faced different situations of death, dying, and bereavement, we can really gain so much perspective and knowledge and compassion. And, that information is it's so juicy. I don't know how else to explain it. Sharing insights, advice, and personal story, we're going to foster a sense of community, and we're really going to be able to support each other. So please, like I said, feel free to comment, definitely be, oh, I'm sweaty. I apologize. It's hot. Hot as, oh gosh, I don't even know. It's hot as a hot dog. I don't know. But, also we're going to be able to expect, back to the topic, we're going to be able to expect support, while we're fostering this arena of support and of resources. We're going to also hoard and collect coping strategies, different techniques to manage grief, discussions on how to take care of yourself, or maybe even better ways to take care of the other person or your family members, or whoever else is in this situation with you. We'll also be able to go over different ways to commemorate the dead. Talking from personal experience, it's very important, I think, to be able to have a ceremony or some type of something, even if it's by yourself in a bathroom. Who cares? That ceremony is very important, and I definitely want to talk about that at a later episode. So definitely make sure you're subscribed, following, and tuning in, so we could really share all this juicy information, as well as receive encouragement from one another. Like, I want to support you, and if you support me too, I love you forever. But I also want to make this place somewhere where we can retreat, for a place of rest. I was in a caregiver role, and, family members or loved ones, friends, or even someone who is just watching this happen, who is very emotional, you can experience emotional and physical strain while supporting or acknowledging what someone who is terminal, or received a terminal illness, or is going through an end of life process. It affects you, right? So I really want the salt circle to be a place where we can just come and focus on our own needs. And I know that sounds really fucking selfish when someone is literally dying. And this is probably going to sound so fucking horrible, but hear me out. No judgment. We can be authentic. And this is a place to really just speak on these topics, because no one talks about it, which is insane to me. Your loved one who will die will die. That cannot be avoided. It might be postponed, but right? You will still remain. You are their legacy. You need to also really actually remain and be their legacy. You see what I'm saying? Like, you cannot give everything that you have into caretaking for someone else, or handling this transitional process for another individual or group of individuals, especially, and this is another topic I want to talk about later in the future in another episode, but especially if that person is an alcoholic, an abuser, someone you've been no contact with, any kind of dysfunctional. Maybe it's a baby daddy who you have nothing and haven't talked to in 40 fucking years, and all of a sudden he's calling you because he's like, I'm dying and I want to see my kids, who he has never helped out with at all. Right? There's so much. So much, but we just need to focus on ourselves. We really do. Despite who it is, what's happening, how badly you want to take care of them, or how dysfunctional and how bad they really need a lot of different kinds of care, you can. Because they will depart, right? They will die, and you will remain. So you have to ensure you are able to survive. You have the means for yourself. Like, you need to put the oxygen mask on yourself if the plane is going down before you do it for anyone else. You see what I'm saying? And I really hope people, take that, if nothing else, from anything I talk about in any of these episodes or any of them to come, that to take care of yourself, to prioritize your needs, even if it's only for 5 minutes a day, you gotta. You have to. Trust me, especially if you're in that caregiving experience. Um, End of thought. We got to keep it pushing or else I'll get too sad, right? And that brings me to my next point. The planning, the end of life planning, right? So if someone is in a dying, stage of, an end of life stage, or if you're a caretaker or know someone who's a caretaker, or even just for yourself, to cover aspects of navigating what to do in a legal sense. Fuck the psychology, fuck the religion, fuck whatever. What do you mean I can't get XYZ medication? What do you mean that I lose my house if I don't pay Medicaid? What do you mean? Like, there are all these legal situations to consider that no one is going to talk to you about. No one is going to warn you about, and you're going to have no idea what to do when it does happen. And trust me, when someone is dying and you're taking care of them, you're not going to have time to be able to learn the fucking red tape of how, wait. How do I get ability to take them to their appointment? Wait, what? That's a thing? And I went through that. So if I can help anyone from going through that, that's my second big point. The first one was really providing a place where we can focus on our own needs. The second one is preparing people for the practical bullshit that will happen. Might vary where you live, but will happen if you or a loved one are gonna die, right? And, I don't mean to offend anyone when I say death, dying, or, put it bluntly, they're going to die, I'm going to die, whoever's dying or is dead. I just don't like terms like they passed on. They're gone now. It does not, we have to say the word. We have to get over the taboo and that, oh, I don't want to say that. It makes me uncomfortable. No, say it. You have to say death and dying. Like, they're words and they're fine. These are natural parts of life. This is a natural human phenomenon. And the fact that we shun it from all conversation, all thought until it's actually happening, and then we don't even say the word when it's happening. No. No. Not here. Not here. So I guess, we should really get into maybe more basic things, just to cover things that I spoke about in my last video. But what is death, right? Death is the stopping of every function, everything that keeps a body functioning. And there's a lot of different systems. There's a lot of things that go to keeping us healthy and going and maintaining. And it's when all of that stops. That is death. It is when everything ceases, every function, every movement, every synapse, it completely goes kaput. What is dying? Dying is a process. Very, very few people just fall over and die. Maybe a couple more people die in their sleep or nice and peacefully while they're taking a nap on a cruise ship for the first time in their life because they were a farmer, whatever. More often than not, we can kind of assume people might die after an illness or after, a decline in health, after sustaining an injury that we never were able to fully recover from. The process of dying can be lengthy. You can not seem like you're ill. You can have no symptoms for years before you actually decline, but you are still in that dying process. That terminal illness kind of seals, in a way, how you are expected to reach your natural end, right? And some people, we don't even know that. Some people die in accidents. Car accidents will obliterate people to puddles of meat, and there's nothing you can do. You get struck by lightning, get attacked by wolves, you get murdered, whatever, abducted by aliens. So to know that you're going to pass away seems almost better because you can prepare for it, right? But in that same thought, I mean, we're all going to die. We should all be preparing for it and keeping in mind, well, how do I want to go? What if I'm not able to make decisions for myself? Like, what if I get into a motocross accident and I'm unconscious? And does anyone know if I want to be left in a vegetative state? Do I want to be cryogenically frozen until future treatments are available if I have some kind of illness? There's no wrong answer. And I feel like sometimes maybe we feel based on societal expectations, socioeconomic status, or even religious expectations, what we should do when we die. I have to get buried because my grandfather was buried. Or you have to get cremated because that's the cheapest fucking option and we live in America and it's a hellscape, right? Whatever the case may be, it's important to talk about. And, I will die at some point. Who knows how? I don't have a diagnosis of anything, so it's honestly fair game, but I could be sick, festering and harboring some malicious ailment that I have no idea about, and all of a sudden it's just going to erupt like Mount Vesuvius, and there'll be nothing I can do because it was untreated for... Who knows, right? We don't know. But we pretend like it's not going to happen. When it does happen, I'll be asleep. I'll die fucking or something, right? And hopefully, I mean, I would love that for us to each die the way we want. But it's important to prepare for everything, right? I mean, people diversify their bonds. They make sure their banks are all balanced and their checkbooks are budgeted or whatever. I don't fucking know. But we don't wonder about what can we do for the end of our life. I want to die with dignity. How can I ensure that? And there's a lot of ways we can ensure that. So one way, and this is while you're alive, you don't have to worry. You can actually do it now, and you might see commercials and yeah, I'm not buying life insurance. You don't have to do that. So a living will. What is a living will? A living will is different from a healthcare proxy. So they are both legal documents that will help you, just a regular person. You don't have to be sick. You don't have to anticipate you're going to get into a fucking boating accident. Nothing, right? But, they're both legal documents in the event that a medical decision needs to be made and you are unable to make that decision. So do you want to be resuscitated? Do you want an experimental drug that contains stem cells? Do you want to be kept alive but you have no limbs? Or do you want to, whatever the flavor may be, let's try to not be morbid, but let's be realistic, right? It's a way to protect yourself. You could almost see it as a document that will seal how people will treat you and take care of you. It's really good accountability, and it's legally protecting you, right? It's legally binding. Fun side note, if you have on that to do not resuscitate, but they resuscitate you, bam, you get $1 million in malpractice and all this other stuff. So, whatever. Food for thought. Anyway, a living will. What is a living will? So, a living will is known as an advanced directive, right? And it allows someone to, what does it even do? A living will is like, you know how when you do die and you have a will, and a will tells a lawyer or the state what you want to happen after you're dead, right? A living will is the same fucking document. It tells the state, the doctors, the lawyers, it tells everyone what you want to happen if you are about to die. So they're kind of the same, right? Kind of the same, but a living will is more specified instead of, assets and funds to medications, treatments. Where do you want to get treatment? If you are injured and sick in San Francisco, do you want to die in New York? Write that shit in there, right? It's going to specify what to happen if you can't communicate it yourself. Like I said, it's going to be medical interventions or treatments. And it's if you're in a coma, if you are brain damaged, whatever it is. And especially regarding, ventilation, artificial nutrition, and resuscitation. So it's very, if you do not want to be kept alive on a monitor for 90 years just being fed through a tube, this is something that is something you might want to look into. And it's specifically to guide the people that are in charge, the professionals, for what to do, and it's also going to protect you in case you want to not be resuscitated and you want your organs donated, but your Christian mother says, absolutely not. My 52-year-old son is not donating his organs because I don't want it, because her beliefs, she thinks it's too morbid. She wants you buried intact, her own preferences, whatever. Too bad, so sad. Your son has this legally binding document that will protect his wishes. He wants to donate his organs. And I can't tell you how, sorry, the dog's ass hit my ragamuffin stand. And I lost my train of thought. But, for example, and, I just want to share information as honestly as I can, right? But, when my grandmother was dying, she said to whoever was around that she wanted to donate her organs and she wanted to have her ashes spread somewhere, wherever, right? And my grandfather, and keep in mind, they are old world, man makes the decisions, woman does all the cleaning type of people. And he's also Christian, so that's why I said that earlier, And he said, like, no, I don't want my wife I don't want to donate her organs. I don't. And we would say, like, well, it's her wish. And he's like, I don't care. She doesn't mean it. And without a document, a legally binding document that will legally protect her right to make that decision, she didn't create one. She didn't have one. So too bad, so sad for her and for everyone who wanted to honor her wishes. Her husband got to cremate her, and the rest is something that I don't have the stomach to talk about just yet. Tune in another episode, and one day we'll get into that. So that is a living will, and that's why living wills are so important. And then on the other side is what is called a healthcare proxy, or a healthcare power of attorney, or POA. And it is a legal document where you can appoint a person, someone else, to be your proxy, right? And they are responsible for making these decisions while you are not, right? So a healthcare proxy, which is also sometimes called an agent, if you become someone's healthcare proxy, if you become the appointed, you become an agent for that individual, right? And you are authorized to make medical decisions, including treatment or, choices not specifically directed like you would see in a living will, but, he doesn't want cotton sheets. I know my friend, he wants linen. Whatever. You can advocate that, and you have to be fucking listened to, because the person who is incapacitated, who cannot speak for themselves or advocate for themselves, has appointed you, and that is a legally protected position. So, if you're married and you know that, you have some illness that is going to incapacitate you or make you not able to advocate for yourself, like dementia, right? Early onset dementia is a thing. You might appoint your husband to be your healthcare proxy and say, like, hey, I know you love me. You're going to do whatever I want for my last wishes. Whatever that might be, we'll talk about it as we talk about it. I don't want to make a formal document that I have, will be the documents, because I don't even know what I want, but I'll give you that ability to control what happens because you know me, right? So a living will differs from a healthcare proxy because the living will is like a roadmap. It's going to detail, what kind of treatment and end of life care, but a healthcare proxy is going to appoint a person to make those decisions. So, I mean, you could have both. But I personally think if you have someone, a healthcare proxy is someone who's going to know you. They're going to know your attitude, your values, your feelings, your wants, and your fears, and they will be able to advocate for that. But you got to make sure you don't pick a fucking dingus, right? So, that being said, we're going to take a really short break because I'm sweating. I get very, when I get emotional, it manifests physically, and I get sweaty. I get sweaty armpits, and I need to step outside and cool off and ground myself. Grounding is a technique I do where I just lay on the grass and think about the earth and then chill the fuck out. It doesn't have to be more mystical or witchy. You can make it that way. Same thing with these candles. Everyone's like, oh, you gotta use white candles. You gotta use white. I got these candles for free. I'm gonna fucking use them. And they're gonna be good juju candles. I don't care. Because I have that kind of fucking arrogance and energy. But I still need to ground myself, right? Either way, when we get back, we're going to talk about the kinds of care you might receive, or you might be in charge of setting up for someone, right? I also want to make sure I give some time to the chat. So I am going to pop in and see what's going on. Hello, my friends. Thanks for watching so far. All right. Yay, how nice. Okay. Well, like I said, we're going to take a short break. I'm going to put the music back on, and then we're just going to get back into it, okay? Breathe, right? All right, my friends, welcome back. At least I'm back, sorry. Let's get back into, our discussion. I don't check the comments. I appreciate everyone for commenting. Definitely keeps it fun and exciting when you interact. No one has any questions or concerns as of right now, but if that changes, please feel free to let me know what they are, or if you want to share your story. Uh, Even if it has nothing to do with this topic, or well, if it has something to do with death, dying, and bereavement, but not what I'm talking about specifically at that moment, feel free. This is pretty unstructured. I'm just kind of winging it. So you're fine, right? We're all fine here. Puppy, please. Sorry. Riblet is a baby. So, we talked about what death, dying, and bereavement are. Actually, we didn't talk about bereavement. We'll get to that. But we talked about what death and dying are and the different things we can do, a living will or a healthcare proxy to kind of prepare ourselves. We could also ask our loved ones if they have that, or if they don't, what do they want? And if they act weird about it, just say like, hey, I just want to make sure whatever it is, wherever you want to be buried or whatever kind of funeral or celebration you want, I just want to make sure you get that. But I don't know what you want. So, it can be a very light-hearted discussion, and it shouldn't be something that you're afraid to have with your loved ones, right? Um, so a living will and a healthcare proxy. There's other things that we can do to protect ourselves and prepare ourselves, and we'll get into that next Wednesday. So now I want to discuss the kind of care that someone who is dying or going through an end of life stage can receive. And there's honestly three types, right? There is palliative care. Ooh, excuse me. There is hospice, and then there is fuck all else, right? So palliative care is care that is specialized for you got a diagnosis, or you have a condition or an ailment that requires very, very serious care. And it's going to be a kind of care that really focuses on sustaining your life, providing pain management, and really ensuring your mental health is also cared for while battling or living with this ailment, which is most likely going to cause, your death, right? Not necessarily all the time. You might go into palliative care and you're expected to live, you go into palliative care when you're a kid, but there is no prognosis of an early death. Um, it's just more of something because your illness is very substantial and it requires very substantial care, right? Um, Palliative care can be provided at any stage of an illness. It can also be providing curative treatments. So you can always, be cured or continue to live a life while in palliative care, right? The main focus is the care. And they try to encompass, like, your spiritual needs as well. A lot of palliative care centers or facilities, they'll have chapels or different places of worship inside. They will do what they can to provide, spiritual support. It might be limited because again, their focus is on the care, the medical care. And the goal isn't necessarily to bring some kind of spiritual ease or oneness with the universe. goal is to provide a quality of life for the patient and the family by addressing those physical problems, therefore the emotional problems, therefore the social problems, and therefore the spiritual, needs. I shouldn't say problems, I should say needs for all of those. Palliative care is going to be handled by doctors, nurses, other specialists who work in the medical field or in the field that the patient is needing care in. On the flip side, hospice is a type of palliative care, but it is specifically for the patients who are terminally ill and have a life expectancy of 6 months or less. So it is when the dying process is coming to its final stages. Like I said, death isn't, dying isn't going to be something where you just fall over and that's it, you're dead. It's going to, gradually stop all functions. And hospice is where a lot of patients will go for when you're anticipating those functions to really be shutting down in a profound way that is not compatible with life, especially life independently. Alternatively, you can be in hospice care just by having a certain type of prognosis or diagnosis. And you're there just to let the disease run its course. There is no cure, when you go into hospice. There's the treatments also are more, they're shifted from maintaining life and maintaining pain management and getting the patient to be as independent as possible. Now in hospice, the concern and the focus has completely shifted to comfort. Anything that can be done to make this person comfortable and, have dignity while they're going through this, because it's inevitable. It's not going to slow down or stop. It will come to its end. And it's a waiting game. We are going to go through it together. I will see you out. And you can do that at hospice. It's really about, like I said, providing comfort and dignity. So, a lot of people talk shit about facilities and nursing homes, but the alternative of staying home, we'll get into that later, right? So the providers at a hospice are nurses, they are doctors, they are medical professionals, but they're also volunteers, they're social workers, priests, monks, people who are working on books, people who are looking for inspiration for their art, people who are trying to recover from addiction or who feel whatever, right? Oh, anyone can really get access to hospice care, but palliative care is more sterilized, especially if your immune system is compromised. So that is kind of the basics of death, dying, and now for the bereavement part. So bereavement, some people interchange bereavement and grief, and that's not technically wrong. Bereavement is also a process, or it's a lotus of behaviors and experiences. To say you're grieving is to say that, you've lost someone and you are sad and you are mourning that loss, right? You're going through the grieving process, right? To be bereaved is to be married to someone for 69 years and She did all the cooking, all the cleaning. You didn't even go to school. You don't have an education. You don't even know how to write your address on an envelope. She did all of that because she was educated, right? What do you do? Bereavement is the the more encompassing. So if you think of grief as the core, bereavement is the cultural, the social, the metaphysical or philosophical or political aspects of the grieving process. So grieving is very personal. It is how you feel, it's how you're affected, right? On an emotional and personal level, that personal relationship, that interpersonal dynamic. Bereavement is, well, the house was in their name and they owed on the house and they had credit card debt. So now the bank is coming for this house. Where do I go? What do you do? And then that's going to lead to, other situations that can cause, a lot of heartache and turbulence. So it's important to give ourselves time to really explore how we grieve, how grieving can affect us, and what we might be left with after the dying process is finished, after someone has died, and then what we are remaining with. It's not just the love that doesn't have anywhere to go. It is the everything else. You have to go to work now. Like what are you gonna do? So, um, I think it's very important also to seek support when you are grieving or when you are bereaved. When that bereavement process is something that is going on in your life. And just like grief, bereavement and grief, they can happen at any time. There's no expiration date, and they can happen in a lot of different ways. There are a lot of different ways people can grieve. Um, there's also a lot of ways that people feel after someone has died. And again, no judgments. We're going to be able to explore all the different ways we can feel and all the different things that might happen. And I definitely want to speak from experience. So if you want to speak from experience, that would be very appreciated. Or even just ruminations and what ifs. If you want to talk about some hypothesis or some situation you've concocted in that omelet of a brain of yours, share it. I want to hear it because honestly, someone really might go through it. So again, we're going to allow some time for people to, message, chime in. I definitely want to read the comments and see what is the what. So bear with me while I click around awkwardly. Oh, that's why. Oh, you gotta be kidding me. Whatever. Oh, someone asked about my video game streams. That's cute. Oh, like I said, I get all sorts of emotional, and my emotions manifest physically to fuck me up. So I'm gonna just throw myself on the grass again to ground. But I will leave you with the music, okay? And then we will just talk about what we're going through. I know I'm grieving. I know that I'm grieving. In a lot of different ways. And I kind of want to share that because I feel like a lot of people can relate. And it's not it's not something that people talk about. And I really truly want to break that taboo. There should be no taboos, especially with, social media and computer mediated communication and globalization and Google Translate. We are all capable of communicating with each other. Why don't we just talk about it? And I want to talk about it here, but we're going to go again, take a really quick break. let ourselves stretch, let people, type if they want to. And I definitely want to respond to more of these comments if there are any. So definitely drop me a comment. Definitely tell me what you think. But let me put this music back on. Hey Google, turn on sunroom light.
Turning two lights on.
Thank you.
Don't worry, I'm here to help.
I appreciate it, Google. I apologize. Hi, my friends. We are back and we have Kitty Bean with us. He's doing kitty things. I appreciate everyone who has tuned in for this very long uh live new episode. I guess I have a lot of death, dying, and bereavement unpacking of my own to do, so that's why I kind of ramble for this podcast as opposed to the one that happens on Mondays. But I feel like this upcoming Monday's podcast episode, stream, whatever, will be pretty long just because last week's I messed up so badly. Don't even watch it. It's so bad. So I definitely wanted to kind of, now that we spoke about the basics, the 101, and, how complex that it can get. I kind of really want to talk about, our own experiences with death, dying, and going through the grief process. Some people also, please keep in mind, some people really just aren't that emotional, or they don't feel things as uh recurring or severely as others. That's not to say that they don't feel bad, they're not sad, they're not going through their own mourning process, but it shouldn't be, oh, if you're not crying and lighting candles, like, do you even care? That shouldn't, don't feel that way if you don't also have the same reactions to some people who are giving their 2 cents or their feedback into death, dying, or bereavement. Again, no judgments, no shame. Let my dog come hang out because he's baby. Oh, my piggy. Will you be the piggy boy? Where's that boy? Where's Stinky? Huh? Um, so like I said earlier, there's a lot of different types of grief that we can experience, and we can mourn different types of people or expectations. Um, we can also not be prepared if someone is dying or does die, and we might be ashamed of how we react. Stop backing your butt up. We might be, upset with how we reacted or didn't react or what we did or didn't do. I mean, we have to also grieve for what we didn't know and allow ourselves to experience that without shame, especially because it is a taboo topic and it's not something we talk about. I mean, I was born in 1992, and throughout my 4 years of high school, I had to do home economics where I had to learn how to sew and bake. And I watched a home video, Miss Ellis from Millbrook, New York, her fucking class in that high school. Miss Ellis made us watch a home video of her giving birth to like her oldest daughter. And it's like that was, I don't know how that was okay for her to show, but like we seen it. We saw it. But we did not discuss death or dying or grief. I mean, that's weird, right? That's fucking weird. I don't think home ec or shop class are a thing in American schools anymore, at least not like anywhere that I can think of, maybe in like the middle of nowhere. But death, dying, and, overall mental health and self soothing type of instrumentation should be taught to kids, I think. But the fact that it's not, I think, really feeds into different fears and insecurities, and that's what makes it so taboo. We don't want to talk about what makes us uncomfortable, and we don't want to think about death and what we don't know about it and how uncertain it is. Everything, the red tape, the bureaucracy, how our family's going to take it, how it's going to happen. We kind of all assume the same thing, that it's not going to happen or it'll happen in a very particular way. And to be honest, we're probably not living that kind of life to die at 99 in bed, asleep, nice and comfortable. Like, come on, let's be real. At least I know I won't. I'll probably die in like an explosion. Knock on wood. Fuck that. But let's get into it a little bit more. I feel like when talking about these kind of topics, it's one thing to just talk about it like from a studious perspective, like I was like writing a fucking essay or something, but I think we really have to get into why I'm doing this for anyone to really like take me or this seriously. And the salt circle is something that I want people to really find that rest and that resource in, like I said way earlier, I want us to be able to focus on our fucking selves as well as to be prepared and to find support. So I'll start with myself, nice little introduction into me. And I apologize in advance, total disclaimer. I might start sobbing uncontrollably. We don't know. And it's fine. And if you start crying too, it's fine, right? Like, we can just be human. We could just be fucking meat bodies on this material plane. Like, who cares? It's fine. We're talking to each other through a computer. It's the future. Anyway, so I got into death, dying, and bereavement. I took a class about it when I was going to SUNY Brooklyn College in New York when I was like 19. And I took a couple of classes with this one professor who I don't remember his name and I'm so sorry, but I remember what he looks like to a T. And the way he spoke was so gentle. I've never heard someone with such a genuine em- empathy. Like, if like, he is definitely probably an emotional vampire, like an energy vampire. I don't care. This man was fucking incredible. Like, he was so incredibly smart and passionate, and like, just him got me interested in the sociological and psychological and physiological aspects of what seemed to be entirely metaphysical and philosophical death, like this giant unknown, this big abyss at the end of life. Poor kids that are, on the St. Jude commercials dying of cancer. That is so removed from me. I don't think about it at all. I watch horror movies and I like gore because I thought I was like goth and like really edgy when I was younger. But to actually talk about death and dying was so much different than seeing a picture of a war zone on Tumblr circa 2010 or whatever. 2011. I don't even fucking know. I'm bad at math, right? You do it. And so that kind of evolved into me wanting to get into medical ethics. We had this one textbook that I still have. It's called Moral Philosophies by a father and a son duo, and their last name is Rachel's. Don't ask me anything else. I don't remember it, but if I saw the book, I would remember, right? And in that book, it really kind of chops down into bite-sized pieces death, dying, and grief, and all of the fucked up ways the law can come in and create these ethical considerations or these legal battles. And, baby Teresa was one that stuck out to me. There was this baby that was born and it didn't have a skull, it didn't have a brain, it didn't have a face. It was literally a body and then like a nub. And that is not, you can't go to work like that. Like, you can't grow up without a fucking, like, basically automatically decapitated in utero from natural causes. It just had, that's the way the cell's formulated. It's completely up to nature or the powers that be. We don't fucking know. We're just little meat bods running around on weird chemical electricity, not knowing the fuck about anything. We don't know. She got pregnant. The life was not sustainable. For just very medically, very early on, they knew, the doctors through sonograms and through different scans, that this was a condition that was not compatible with life, right? Again, no head, no face, no skull, no brain. It was literally a body with a nub. And the baby was born, they got the baby out of the mother. It was born, it came out, right? However, what do you do then? What do you do? Do you keep it alive on ventilators, on liquid nutrition, on breathing machines, on hydration machines, on blood filtering machines, spending all this taxpayer money, or do you bill it to the mother's insurance? That's another consideration, right? But do you keep baby Teresa alive? Or do you just let her die naturally? As she came out, you do no life-saving procedures, no life-sustaining procedures. You just allow nature to take its course for the newborn to die naturally as it would. Any other generation, any other century, decade situation, it would just naturally, that's what would happen. And it's no one's fault. These things happen with biology and nature. It's just one of those things, right? So there was this giant legal battle, this huge, gripping the nation. What do we do with baby Teresa? Keep her alive, which they tried, they did. But how do you ensure that this individual, right? And we can go into the definition of an individual at a later stream. But this person, this individual, this living thing that you're keeping alive, we are physically forcing it to be alive despite the nature of its condition. How can we ensure, because remember, it doesn't have a skull, no brain, no face, nothing. How do we ensure that it is not in pain? Right? We could be keeping someone alive in agony. They might not want it, but we're forcing this onto them. How do we know that that's what they want? And it is in their best interest. We're not causing pain. We're doing more good. We'll be able to ensure, more possibilities for healing or adaptation with this illness the longer we force you to go through this. But that's not the case with a baby Teresa with no fucking brain, right? It really isn't. So that's really what got me into the study of death, dying, and bereavement, which is called thanatology. I wanted to be a thanatologist. I wanted to go to school for that, but America and college, like, come on. For thanatology, please. We don't even talk about death or dying or grief. So that's what got me into this field. Um, and then later in my life, almost like 10 years later, I had not my first experience with death or dying, but my first experience as a caretaker. And that really affected me way more than I thought it was going to. And I think it was specifically because at that point in my life, I was very aware of codependency, right? I was very aware of the dysfunction that was my grandparents' house, their lifestyle, my father who lived with them. I to really go into that situation, trying to, be, not a party girl, not just getting fucked up on alcohol 24/7 to cope, really just trying to show up and go to work and then maintain a relationship and take care of everything while it was I referred to it as la la land. Like my grandparents' house was literally in a different dimension and nothing made sense, right? Nothing. And it was that way my entire life. So to come back to it, kind of expecting that the news that grandma was dying and she had 4 weeks to live and wanted to die at home in the living room, like her sisters. Grandma was like one of 9, and like 4 of her sisters died basically at their home, and the other sisters came and took care of them. But now grandma's like 80 and all of her other sisters are fucking dead except for 2, and like they're across the country and they're even older. So sorry, I went into thought, and now I'm miles away. I'm back in New York. Um, so that's what grandma wanted, right? And I really went into that situation kind of, I'll just do it. I'll just fucking handle it. I'll take care of grandma. And I almost expected, and a very close relative to me said as well, she she said that, she really thought that a diagnosis or something like this, like one of the his parents dying would snap him out of his addiction, or it would just make him a fucking human again, because my father's addiction is to a point where it is incurable, and he is not a person anymore. He is just someone who needs to feed an addiction. There is no hobbies, no personality, no ability to maintain relationships or interact meaningfully or understand how he's interacting and coming across. You can't even He's been an addict since he was like 13. Like, there was no, and for someone to really think that he would just snap out of it and become someone that we needed in the family, I don't know why I bought into it too. I really don't, but I did. And it was fucked because there were many moments where I just didn't believe what the fuck was happening around me, that I regret my inaction. And I realized I was just in shock, like, because it was La La Land. It was a totally irrational, insane place dealing with people who were either addicted to substances or enabling an addict for over 40 years. I'm not even shitting you. I'm not even shitting you. Like, to step into that and kind of expect, like, oh, maybe it'll change. It's not going to fucking change. And then to think, let me cut back on alcohol. Why? Of all the times in my life, why then? That's when you should have been drinking more. If anything, like, fuck it. Like, let's be real. Especially to deal with that, I had no other way to cope. I had no support. I had that relative, right? We spoke on the phone, but to actually have someone in the house helping me bathe my grandma while she's on her deathbed in the living room, and then hear my grandfather say, like, I want you to get your grandma's stuff out of my bedroom because I don't want to look at it anymore. And he says that in earshot of grandma who's dying in the living room, and it's just like, what even is this? Like, to have someone actually there to help did not happen until right before the end. And I'll get into that at a later episode, because it's been 2 or 3 years since grandma died, and a year less than that since grandpa died. And I think grandpa's been dead for exactly like a year and change, and then grandma's been dead for like 2 years and change, but I don't feel like that's right either. No, grandma's been dead for 3 years and change. No, we had no funeral. I don't know. I have no idea, right? No tombstone, nothing. But, to navigate that alone, and then to do for the first time with zero resources, zero preparation, in an environment that is so dysfunctional. Like, my father was stealing my grandma's pain medicine, and the hospice nurse, because if you are in, end of life care, the state will give you a hospice nurse like once or twice a week. And they will help you. Don't think that once or twice isn't a lot, because anything at that point really is. And I ended up losing my job. I quit another job. My boyfriend and we broke up. It was a really bad breakup. He lived 20 minutes away but refused to come and emotionally support me. He didn't care. He absolutely didn't care. And then he looked at me and he's like, "Well, if you're so sad and so like traumatized or whatever about it, like, you think you'd be making better art." And it's like, I can't. I'm still fucked up that someone would say that to me during all that. But the level of dysfunction, and to feel like I had no one to really like support me supporting grandma. And I was 29, 30, 28. It was hard. I was still, I was young. ish. Oh man. So I definitely understand how important it is to have resources and to know what you're getting into and to have someone that you can be like, how the fuck do I pick up someone from a bed who shit themselves who is 3 times my weight? I had no idea when I needed to do it. But of course, the fucking internet algorithm is as it is. And like a year after everyone died, I was getting tons of content of caretaking gold. And I can't tell you how pissed I was. I can't even explain it. Um, And then, I have a lot of ruminations or spirals, fucking immense paralyzing thoughts that I have about, well, my father's a drug addict, the house is getting sold, everyone's dead, everyone hates my dad, who can hate him, right? I'm his daughter. He's gonna either die under a bridge from a drug overdose, or he's gonna get like stabbed at like a drug deal or a robbery, or he's gonna go to prison and who the fuck knows. And, like it's honestly probably not gonna end well. And I don't know if it makes me angry thinking, oh no, think it will end well. Like, I don't know if I'm that human to I'll get into that at another stream when we talk more in depth about, those darker thoughts. But I might very well get a call or be in a position where, my father is dying, he wants to talk to me, or he's really in a bad way and is trying to sober up and is homeless and destitute and needs help or he's going to die. What do I do? And it would be a disservice for me not to think about that, especially when, this dynamic, this person is so dysfunctional and toxic, and the lifestyle he's chosen and the circumstances that we share or inflicted on one another. he- is it something that will be absolvable when he is dying? And, do people like that really deserve absolution or forgiveness or contact? Having someone like a hospice nurse contact you for someone who you are in no contact with or don't care for is, possibility, especially as our lives go on and we meet more people and things get more complex. Um, Alternatively, I'll let you in on a fucking secret, and I know it's insane because a relative kind of like was like, "Honey, what the fuck?" And I think about it. I was thinking about it in the car today when I was driving from work, and the whole reason I functionally have not had a relationship with my mother since I was like 13. We have not ever had a relationship even before that. And the only reason while being basically non-contact, I don't speak to her, and whenever we do speak, it's never good. We have no relationship whatsoever. She has been completely absent from my life, more or less. Um, I won't block her number. I won't. And I don't know why. I do know why. You know why? Because in my head, in this fucking omelet, I really think, well, my mom is probably going to kill herself. So when she does and the police come and they find her phone and they see like my name or whatever, they'll call me and let me know. And then that will be closure. That will mean something. That will maybe it'll delineate or mark some learn lesson. What? It makes no sense, but it's almost like I am keeping a pathway open just to make myself sick. It's weird. Hi, kitty. It is weird, especially because if that was the case, if she did, happen to commit suicide or get into an accident, police would be able to locate me, right? I don't know. I've never really been in that situation, but I assume that's how next of kin works. Like that's just on a database somewhere. I don't know. And why does that make me worry if I don't know if she died? Is it because I want to be able to blame myself? It's weird. It's a very strange thought. And my relative was like, honey, delete the number, block it. She's like, this isn't, even if she was going to kill herself, what does that have to do with you? And it's true. What does it have to do with me? Am I going to keep this pathway open until the end of time just so she can have access or just so there can be some kind of access for continued pain or it's a very strange thing that I've caught myself doing and made even oh I won't even get into it but and I do find myself grieving sometimes because there is no relationship. And I think, like, well, when she does pass away, like, we don't talk about healthcare proxies. We have no relationship. What would I do with that? How would I feel about that? And it's okay for me to think about that. I don't have to have the perfect relationship with her. I don't have to have some call to action or something that I'm going to do it's okay to just think about it or just ruminate a little bit. Don't ruminate. Ruminating is bad. But yeah, those are kind of my thoughts lately with death and dying, but also the grief that I carry, I think I touched on a little bit was a lot of shame, the things that I didn't do for grandma or grandpa or the fact that I'm not closer with my mother and I feel responsible like, well, I should know how she wants to die. I should take care of her. Why am I taking that on? Who knows? That's more of a me thing than anything that I have to navigate. But I also find myself a lot of the times reminiscing and mourning about friendships that are no longer and then having this immense survivor's guilt over certain friends one in which I won't mention, but her and I her mother basically adopted me fostered me for years, was such a positive influence in my life despite being an alcoholic and a hoarder and running from the IRS, whatever. Um, and the daughter, my best friend, we were like almost the same age, had the same eyeglass prescription, had the same titty size, used the same face scrub. We looked identical almost, and we were best friends since we met when we were like 6 or 7 years old. And my other dog. And so I will end this shortly. But she fell very hard into drugs and alcohol and the partying lifestyle. She started dating abusive men who really, I mean, the person that I loved and grew up with disappeared gradually to the point where she really reminded me of my dad. And it was so scary that I did not react well. I reacted with a lot of anger and you know, whatever. We are no longer friends and finding out that she was going to rehab, but she was still looking for drugs. Come on, Buddha. Come on. And she was just overall doing really risky things like setting microwaves on fire because she would try to dehydrate certain pills that she would want to snort and then not even realizing that the microwave was on fire and speeding on motorcycles and throwing herself in gutters when boy wouldn't act nice to her, just really, really unhinged bullshit. And I can really feel guilty sometimes that I didn't react how I would react now, 10 fucking years later. I have to give myself the ability to grieve what I didn't know and give myself the ability to grieve and, allow who I was to exist. Like I was not capable. I was equally a wounded person. I was young. Was not equipped like a fucking psychologist or any kind of social worker. It was very scary to see my friend fall into basically like being a crack whore. Like it was insane. She used to be afraid to curse and she like was the sweetest thing ever, and then all of a sudden she started smoking cigarettes and letting like boys finger her butthole in seedy bars, and it's like, what even is happening? Very like, and she would put me and her other friends like in lots of danger, and it just became very unacceptable. And the fact that I almost feel like growing up she was prettier than me, smarter than me, more popular, more athletic. I should have been the drug addict. We were both heavy partiers when we were like 19. The fact that she really fell into drug use and, giving into negative thoughts and bad coping habits. And I just was too, I don't know, I was too stupid. I just didn't fucking really think it was an option to like snort opanas. I don't know. I'd rather just play video games and like be depressed and autistic. Like, fuck it. I don't know. It's cheaper, right? I don't have money like that. I'd rather spend my money on like food. I don't know. And I always felt guilty that she became what she became, and that she never really got better or, I don't actually know what happened to her, but there's a lot of feeling sad and feeling guilty and feeling like, almost every day I think about her and I think about, the things that I wish we could do together and the things I wish I could tell her and what it would have been like to go through certain milestones with her in the last 10 years, how different my life would have been because we used to have so much fun. We really did. We were so, so, so close. We were basically sisters. We really, really were. And to lose that connection and to lose it, gradually over her drug use and, mental health issues, and then suddenly over one argument in the kitchen when we both shared an apartment across the street from Mahoney's in Poughkeepsie. It was really just hard for me to get over. And then I remember, you know, I don't I just remember months later I was living in Idaho. I moved from New York to Idaho because grandma died. I lost both of my jobs, or I quit one of them and I lost the other. My relationship went to shit. Everything just was terrible. My father and grandpa were really just like becoming way more intense with their addiction, enabling dynamic, and I didn't know what else to do, so I literally just ran from my problems, right? And in Idaho, a couple of months after I got there, I get like all these messages from that friend, obviously probably drunk or some kind of intoxicated, just manically spouting off she's sorry and she misses me. And I felt the same way. I didn't care. I truly did not care at all. I just wanted my friend back. I even offered to like get her to like move out to Idaho so we could just start over. And she never like answered that. She would just like message me in like a frantic and then like go silent for like 16 hours and then message me frantically a bunch of times again and then like go silent for like 20 hours. And then I was fine. I found out she was fucking my ex-boyfriend at the time, who he like stole my bed and like all this shit. So like she was fucking him on my bed, whatever. But it was like such betrayal, especially while you're talking to me and like pretending like you're sorry and then like you're doing that because a mutual friend told me. Because when I was like, hey, Jess friend might move out here. He was like, you know, she's fucking Greg, right? And I was like, yo, I had no idea. That's fucked. And the amount of rage I felt, which I realized was just my sadness that was turned outward. Again, it was like mourning that friend. It was like losing that friend. And it really like just kind of, put it in the ground that this person is not who she used to be. It's not who she was. And the friendship that was there that I cherished since I was 6 years old, 20 years of friendship is just gone, right? Just completely gone or whatever. 20 something years. I don't even know. I don't know numbers that well. But I still think about her all the time, but I don't think that I'm that human that I can have a relationship. And that's valid. You can still mourn and grieve and miss that person, but not want them in your life. You can just kind of say, like, hey, everything died and it needs to stay that way. It hurts me and I will grieve you. But another way to look at it is like, you got the best out of them. You got the best of their years. Like you loved them as much as you could and were supposed to. And it's kind of the same thing if someone dies at any actual point in, your relationship with them. It's like you had them for while you had them. You had them completely. You had the best of them. And I try to think about that too when it comes to grief and bereavement. Just because it's it's one of the oldest stories, you know? One of the oldest stories on the planet is that there are two people. One of them will leave first. That is the oldest story that we know. Someone will leave first. And to think about it, that you really get the best of them and you give the best of you during that time, right? Oh, so we're gonna leave, right? Oh, this is Bean Boy. He just farted. But I'm so happy that you were able to tune in and listen to almost 2 hours of my rambling. Definitely need to condense it. But like I said, death, dying, and bereavement is such a complex topic and it's taboo. And we got to break that. We really do. So, definitely want to thank everyone for watching. Definitely want to ask you to tune in again and, let me know what you think. Definitely like and subscribe. Definitely comment. There might be some people who are small-minded with tiny vocabularies who want to act like this is a joke, or who might want to act like, let's divert the conversation into something juvenile because it's easier than actually facing our feelings, or it's easier and more comfortable than talking to ourselves and meeting who we are on the inside, right? And that's fine. Like, we can be in any stage of our healing journey. But again, there is going to be no judgment. There is going to be no shame, because this is going to be an authentic place where we can all share. Also, we could just ban whoever is being annoying and it's fine. So there's nothing to lose. Definitely tune in next time. Next Wednesday, we will have another episode about death, dying, and bereavement, but we will go into more detail about some new topics. Alternatively, you can tune in on Monday and we will talk about, self-sorcery and shadow work and healing ourselves in a way that intersects psychology and paganism. And, that's also going to be more than just an intro discussion. If you want to see the intro discussions, please tune in or please watch the previous recordings that I have. Let me know what you think of those too, because I definitely want to get some feedback. And I definitely need to remember to blow out these candles because I forgot last time. So again, thank you so much for watching and tuning in. I really appreciate, your time and your energy. And Thanks for coming to the Salt Circle. I hope you guys have a great night, a great morning, whatever it is. Okay.